Well, Johan, what I wanted to do is start out a little bit, your cycling background. Growing up in Belgium, what got you into the sport? And who were some of your heroes growing up?
Well, you know, as everybody knows, I'm from Belgium. And in Belgium, it's very popular. Cycling is, next to soccer, the second most popular sport. And just to give you an example, I think there's more than 200 days per year cycling on TV nowadays.
Right.
And back in, I mean, about 20 years ago, or it's probably 30 years now. I'm getting old. 30 years ago, you know, for me it was the logical step. You know, we had some cyclists in our family, and one of Eddie Merckx's teammates actually was a cousin of my mother, also, and my father was a cycling fan, so. I had my heroes, and Eddie Merckx, of course, was a hero. Sure. when I was a young boy, and it was quite logical to try it in cycling. And on top of that, in my town, there was a lot of cyclists, and it started basically, you know, doing some races around the block. Then I became part of the cycling club of my father, and then I started to race, and it went pretty well. So.
And you had success right away. And when was your first Tour de France?
My first Tour de France was in 1990. It was my third year professional.
Okay.
And I started as a pro in a very small team in Belgium when it was only a local professional team. But then I could go to a bigger team. Back then it was called Lotto. Now it's Silence Lotto. Sure. But it's still around. And I could do the Tour de France, and it was my dream. You know, every young kid in Belgium who becomes a cyclist dreams of riding the Tour de France. And I remember it was a very, very special experience. I was overwhelmed by the event, but I did pretty well. My first Tour de France, I finished 16th overall, and as a first.
There you go. And how old were you?
I was, I think, 24.
24 years old. Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, it's still like this nowadays. I mean, cycling is huge in Belgium, and if you see the images of the Tour of Flanders, it's the national holiday, and basically all Belgium is out of their house to watch the race. So it's a very big sport over there.
And when your career was starting to wind down as a racer, did you think right away that you wanted to be a director? Was that the plan?
No, never. No, I never thought about it. Well, first of all, if you're a professional cyclist, you know, you're very, very immersed in what you're doing, and you're trying to do as good as you can, and basically you're 24 hours a day busy with yourself, and you're living in I would say you live like kind of in a bubble.
Right.
And when I stopped my career, I was 34, and I decided that my career would end. It was overnight. I didn't even wait until the end of the season. It was in the month of August.
You just knew.
And all of a sudden I said, you know what, I'm not going to go on anymore. And 3 weeks after I made that decision, I mean, I had no idea what my future was going to be. I hadn't even planned for it. And Lance called me 3 weeks after my retirement, and he told me that they needed some new people in the team. Back then it was US Postal. It was a very small team, but he kind of didn't say it himself to me. He said, "Okay, can the manager call you tomorrow and talk about the future of our team?" And even then, when he called me, I did never think that I would be the director. I mean, it's something I never considered before. And I had another idea, you know. I said maybe I can do some PR work for them, or some marketing help. I had a marketing degree back then, so. And the next day, the manager called me, and he said, "Well, Lance wants you to be the director of the team." And I said, "Well, you know, how am I going to do that? I don't even know what the job is, you know." But it was a decision I made a quick decision back then, and I'm still very happy I followed what I thought was good.
Now, had you had much exposure to Lance as a cyclist during your career? Had you raced against him?
We were not close friends.
Okay.
I mean, we had respect, and we were never on the same team, and so we raced against each other.
Yeah.
but you know, in the down moments in a race, when the group is not going so fast, we chatted about all kinds of things, and then I lost him a little bit because in '96 he got sick and he disappeared, and I sent him a few notes, but then basically he was a year out of cycling in '97, and as I said, you know, you go on with your own thing. When he came back in '98 and I saw him the first time, it was great to see him.
Sure.
But you know, during our career, we had some interesting moments together, and one of them was, and I think that's what really remarked Lance. One of the things we had together was a particular stage in the Tour de France, and it was a stage I won in 1995. It was a difficult stage, but not in the real hills. It was in Belgium on the course of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, basically. And I had the instructions I got from my director was I needed to go in the breakaways to make the race hard for the leader. And in the last breakaway, I got instructions I had to attack. And the last guy who could stay on my wheel was Lance. And ultimately, that stage I dropped him.
And you still got the job.
So, you know, I told him after, I said, I think if I wouldn't have dropped you that day, you would never have thought about me as director.
And what was your impression when you took over the team? Lance was just coming back from cancer. Did you feel that he was going to be, you know, that he could be a great cyclist, that he could be someone who could be a Tour contender?
Of course, that's basically what I tried to tell him from the moment I accepted the job. I had been watching '98, which was his comeback year, and I saw a different guy. You know, he was not that big,
right,
powerful guy anymore. He had lost a little weight after his illness, and he had finished fourth in the Tour of Spain in '98 without really being prepared for it and without having trained for it. So I thought by myself, you know, I said, if we do everything right, and next year he's already 1 year back again in the race, and we do everything right, and we preview the courses and we change a few things, we should try to win the Tour.
And what did Lance, what was his response?
He didn't really agree at the beginning. I remember one of the first emails I sent to Lance after I accepted the job as director was, I said, Lance, we can win the Tour de France. It was a very short email. And he called me after that and he said, what are you thinking? I mean, let's, you know, tell me, I think you can win some stages.
Yeah.
Tell me which stages I should focus on. And I told him, you know, I said, I'm not talking about stages, I'm talking about the whole Tour. And I insisted and I insisted, and I think at the end I could convince him. Right. But basically, you know, it was because I saw something different in him, and also I could really convince him that he had nothing to prove to anybody. I think he had won his biggest fight in life, right, which was against the disease. And he has been world champion and he had won classics. And I said, well, the only thing you can do now is win the Tour. The rest doesn't matter.
He's done everything else.
And ultimately, he was brave enough to believe in that crazy idea.
Well, you know,
and we did it.